Okay, welcome to another episode of the PracticeBloom podcast, or the video if you're watching the video. My name is Matt Coffey, CEO of PracticeBloom. We're going to talk today about interrupt and engage, a step-by-step process to guide patients. Now, we work with a lot of medical professionals, different types of industries, but they all have the same sort of common ailment that we find, and that's just really boring headlines, boring subtext, and boring solutions. And part of the problem is they're not creating an interrupt pattern, especially when we get to first initialize with them on how their marketing actually impacts the patient. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. And that's the whole point of this conversation is how do we guide the patient through properly without losing their interest, and also how do we actually even get them to start to even view an ad, because you can't even present your information if you haven't engaged them. And I think that's really where we've become a real asset to help that process of thinking. Now, if you consider there's three initial sections to an ad that really start the process of someone who's involved in it. If they're looking at it online at a social media ad, such as in Facebook, or if they're looking at it from a regular website, or even if they've just gotten a piece of direct mail. Very, very simple things make a huge difference. You have to actually engage with them. And the big problem we see is that a lot of the practitioners that we've worked with have a theory that their brand is important in the market. And the problem with that theory is that it's incorrect, because there isn't any brand to a customer. They don't know you yet. It's sort of like not being able to see your practice from a perspective of I guess you could say McDonald's versus a small hamburger joint. McDonald's is everywhere, so you know the brand, but the small hamburger joint doesn't necessarily have any branding. So there's no way for you as a practitioner to enter the mind of someone because you've got no branding awareness within their framework. So you have to think of yourself as how do you then become more important. So going back to the McDonald's versus small hamburger stand, there's a very big element of trying to create surprise and delight with the client or the potential patient by giving them a attention-grabbing headline. Since they don't know your brand, you need to really engage. And so you can think of things as trying to bring people through the funnel by starting that engagement process with sub-headline that is really important. And it should relate to the topic of their pain, right? So you can say there's two types of pains for this type of ailment. Are you one of these? And that immediately gets someone's attention, because they're thinking, well, I do have that type of pain, and how does it relate? And then the subheadline should then continue that story. If you haven't heard about this particular ailment, the two types of pains are the following. Da-da-da-da-da. Now you get into a problem and solve. So now we've got a problem and solve subheadline below that. So it's guiding the reader through the different steps of bringing people through solutions. So what we commonly find is a lot of the practitioners just want to list out the services that they provide and this sort of platitude of service. So one of the things I would say is that you have to be very careful is that whenever you have information is to think, who else can say that? So think about your competitors and think about what you've put in your line list of services you may provide. And think about who else could say that. So we want to be different when we provide our services. What's the unique selling proposition of the practice, the USP? Then you have to think about, do you really believe in that? Now I see a lot of things like platinum experience or 5-star level, and really these are just platitudes that don't have any impact on the patient. What you need to do is have an emotional connection. Really start to think about the existence of the patient's story. So if you think of timeline from A to Z, and there's this sort of A, B, C, D, and along it goes to Z until they actually contact a practitioner. So in A, they're all the way on the other side saying, what should I do? So there's just in this beginning process of information gathering. And then all the way to Z, they've actually picked a practitioner. So the patient is starting to think about how they've started their journey on one side of what should I do to this, who should I see? And you have to think about where the percentage points make sense. So if you think about the 1 or 2% that are at the very end who are just at who do I see, missing 98% of the market. And that really is where you can start to get people down your funnel quicker. And that's by logically building a case study through the process of 1, interrupting and engaging, 2, getting the subheadlines set up so that there's actually a story that continues that, then building logical case studies behind that strategy. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, well, I just hear that if you just bullet point stuff out that people don't read and they don't want to know that much information. And well, think about this. When you have a problem, and of course, I've been a patient, I don't want to be bullet pointed. I want to really know. I want to go down and find out more information. I want to be told that there's a solution to my problem, not just bullet pointed lists of services and so forth. So think about that when you're writing your copy for your actual website or for your guide. Think about, of course, making the subject logical, but also thinking about the patient who's trying to solve their problem, not just go through a quick little list of things that maybe or maybe not, again, they may read or may glaze over. They actually do want to read this stuff. This is a copy that's going to be a real big impact for your patients. And the last thing is, don't just go for the appointment. So the whole point of bringing copy to interrupt and engage is to step-by-step guide them, but don't immediately go for the throat. And a lot of the things that we see out there in the market space are immediately asking for an appointment. They just want to get, here's our phone number, call us now, we're open from 10 to da-da-da. It really is better to get that piece of content continued with a follow-up piece of content that takes them and guides them through the patient journey. Again, that 1 to 2%, they'll call you anyways, but the rest of the 98%, they're still in the what should I do factor, who should I see? So please think about these things when you're writing your copy, and certainly you can contact us if you need help. Again, it's Matt Coffey, PracticeBloom. See you in the next episode.